Hello and welcome to the Roundtable Podcast. I am Sir Galahad, aka Shogun. Today we are doing one of our much beloved formal debate series. Today I have been challenged by TheDex. Thank you, TheDex, for challenging me to a debate. The topic of today's debate is whether in America, in the United States of America, voting is politically meaningful. And I'm sorry, I'm in a public space. I apologize for any background noise. I'll keep my microphone closed. Let me know if it at any time is too loud, I'll respond. But anyways, so we're going to be debating, in the USA, is voting a politically meaningful action? My friend TheDex will be voting in the affirmative, or arguing in the affirmative that yes it is, and I will be arguing in the negative, no it is not meaningful. Before we begin, join us on the Roundtable Discord server. Just Google the Roundtable Discord to find our link, or go to Discord, and you can find us through the politics or conspiracy theory sections. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, and all different social media. You can find everything through the Discord server. Find us on our podcast on YouTube, coming also to Podcast Addict, Podbean. Check out our website, theroundtablediscord.com. That being said, thank you all for joining us in the live audience. There will be an open discussion and a further open debate after the three-round formal debate, so please stick around. As you guys know, after this debate, you'll be asked to make two votes. One is which debater did a better job in terms of the skill of debate, the art of debate. And the second question is, which of the two positions do you agree with? So first, who did a better job as a debater? Second, which position do you support? We'll ask for both your votes at the end. At the end, there's no winner or loser. This is for everybody's benefit as an enjoyable exercise. So that being said, thank you for agreeing to participate in TheDex. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing fine, and thanks for in having me as well.
My pleasure, and as I said, hopefully we'll have a series of debates, you and I, as you seem to be someone who enjoys these things, and I know we have many topics already lined up we can do. So today, again, the subject is voting politically meaningful in the United States of America in particular. You will be arguing in the affirmative, and therefore you will have the first 5 minutes to lay out your case, and then I will respond. So Paulie, whenever you're ready, just say round one, TheDex, begin, and whenever he begins, you start the timer, and as you know, you'll tell him when he has 1 minute remaining and when he's out of time.
You got it. Dex, you ready to go now?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. We're starting.
Now, before we get into this debate, I would not only like to thank my excellent and extremely smart debate opponent, Sir Galahad, but also for the server for hosting us. And by the way, I also apologize for my cough. I seem to have a cold. Now, getting that out of the way, I'd like to state my position, which is that I believe that every person's individual vote does, in fact, matter, and that our governments are not controlled by rich men sitting in their boardrooms. My belief in this is based on three reasons. Number one, if you look at polling data, which for people who don't know is basically a survey for who the most popular candidate is, you'll see that who was elected into office is almost exactly the same to what the poll predicts. For example, look at the U.S. Senate and Representatives elections that happened in 2016. The poll for the Senate said that there was going to be about 46 seats for Democrats and 46 seats for Republicans, with 8 being toss-up states with most leaning Republican. The people that were elected were almost exactly that, with there being 48 Democrats and 52 Republicans. This same story is shown in the polls of the representatives correlating to who is actually in the House of Representatives. This demonstrates my points because it shows that the will of the Americans who do not throw away their right to vote away, and do so, in fact, choose who is the best representative for themselves in our democracy. In shorter words, it proves that the American people do, in fact, have a say. Number two, now I believe in proving my notion that it is also important to prove that rich people do not control who gets into positions of political power, nor control the bills that are getting passed. Surprisingly enough, there was a study done by 2 political scientists, Martin Glenz and Benjamin Page. The study looked at 1,779 bills that were passed and compared them to public opinion and found 2 very interesting things. Number one, the rich and the middle class actually agree on most things. Glenz and Page sample, quote, Benz and Page's sample finds that the rich and middle class agree on 89.6% of the legislation in the data sample, 1,559 bills out of the 1,779 bills. And the poor, middle class, and the rich agree on about 80.2% of the bills. Number 2, when the rich and middle class do disagree, each gets their way about 50% of the time. Quote, looking at the 108 instances where opinions of the wealthy and middle class differ, they find that the middle class and rich disagree about 10.9 percentage points on average for each bill. But on the bills on which the middle and rich class do disagree significantly, they find that they each get their way about 50%. For the middle class, there was 87 wins, 47% of all cases, and for the rich, there was 98 wins, 53% of all cases. This small gap in win rates does not significantly differ from 50%, end quote. I know that this piece of data points to the fundamental truth that people not only choose who gets into office, but ultimately what policies are implemented. And my last point being that money is not the end-all be-all, and votes are. For example, look at the recent Democratic primaries. Michael Bloomberg in March spent $176,190,430, while Joe Biden only spent
1 minute, Dex.
$32,452,622. And Joe Biden got 1,566 delegates, while Michael Bloomberg only got 2.7% of that, with 43 delegates. And in the South Carolina Democratic primary, billionaire Tom Sawyer spent more than $13.3 million in that state. Joe Biden only spent $101,467. Almost 13 million apart, but who won? Joe Biden. This shows us that money, in fact, is not the end-all be-all. It shows us the fact that the voters choose who is in office. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. Are you ready, Galahad?
Actually, I'm sorry, if you could just give me 30 seconds.
No problem.
Is he saying that money is not involved of this politics?
I'm sorry, Open Eye, there's not going to be anyone else participating until after the debates, just so that everybody's got a fresh mind just to listen to the debates. So if you could just give me 30 more seconds, I'm very sorry. I'm almost ready. Okay, I apologize, and I'm ready.
All right, here we go.
So first of all, let me thank my guest for taking the time out of his day to prepare for and participate in this debate, and I appreciated that first round. So first of all, let me begin by acknowledging the truth of my opponent's position, which is obvious. I'm sorry, is there? No, that's truth. Good job, truth. I'm going to ask my my moderator to reset the time. Truth, I'm going to remind you of how many times you've had this issue of not keeping your mic closed and how simple it is to correct that behavior. And I'm going to ask you again to do so. Okay, so can you reset my time, please, moderator?
Already done, and here we go.
So I'd just like to again thank my opponent, TheDex, for participating in this debate and the audience for taking time to attend. It's very important to consider these issues, and I just want to dive right into this very interesting topic. So again, is in the United States context voting a meaningful political action? Again, I'm sorry if this background noise is in any way disruptive. So first of all, let me acknowledge the obvious truth in my opponent's position, right? When you vote, you are indeed exerting a political choice. You are given a choice between, generally speaking, two different options. And which of those options you choose will make some difference, right? These two candidates are campaigning against one another for your votes. And obviously, therefore, your votes are indeed an important and desirable commodity. And indeed, they can determine the future of the country in the sense that whether Hillary won or Trump won, clearly made a big difference, right? And obviously we'd be living in a very different world if Hillary had won rather than Trump. And to some extent, who voted for who made a significant impact in that. So I'm beginning to steelman my opponent's argument and say, obviously voting for one candidate is not the same as voting for the other, and therefore you do exert some influence, right, when you do so. And so I'm certainly not going to argue that the value of voting is zero per se, or that has no significance. It does have some significance, right? It is one small way you can express your political preferences and the direction that you want the country to take out of those options that are given to you. So having now steelman my opponent's argument, I'll spend the remainder of my time arguing my point, which is why this is ultimately essentially politically futile, or in some ways even politically self-destructive, and certainly not adequate and not meaningful in a true sense, not worthy of the title democracy. So democracy comes from the root word demos, which means population or people, right? And krisi meaning kratos or power. So power of the people, power of the demos, power of the people. Now, this is a noble ideal, right? It's a good thing. I would simply argue that voting in no way, shape, or form approximates democracy. Because the current system of electoral voting in the United States in no way, shape, approximates the concept of rule by the people. So let's get into the many, many reasons why the voting system as it currently exists is inadequate to the point of being insulting and inadequate to the point of being almost not worth participating in. So first of all, why would it not be worth participating in? Because it doesn't cost you anything, you're given this vote, so why would you not vote? And I'm not saying you shouldn't vote, right? That's up to you whether you vote or not. But what are the downsides of voting? Well, when you vote, this can be taken as implied consent. Because once you voted for a candidate, you have essentially thrown your lot in with that candidate. And I'm also going to ask my audience, if at any time my connection becomes choppy or I become roboting, please simply say Shogun roboting. Allow me to reset my connection. I'll quickly return. So far, it seems like I'm okay, but just please do so. So anyways, all I'm saying is when you cast your vote for someone, you've essentially consented. So using the metaphor of sex, not to put too fine a point on it, if you consent to sex, you can no longer claim that you were raped, right? If someone says, can I have sex with you? And you say yes, right? Which is what you're kind of doing if you vote for this candidate, you're consenting to sex. So whatever that candidate now does, you've lost your right to complain in a sense because you voted for them. So if you voted for Trump because you thought he was better than Hillary, well, maybe I agree with you, but the problem is now whatever Trump does, that's your candidate. You voted for him. So you've now lost a substantial amount of the moral authority you might have had in opposing that politician and saying, listen, I didn't vote for you, and I don't like anything you're doing, and I don't support it. What did these Democrats and so forth, SJWs, do after Trump was elected, not arrested, not erected, but elected? Well, they said he's not my president. And of course he is their president, right? Because of the way the system works, he is their president. But they said he's not my president. Well, you can't make that moral claim, obviously, if you voted for him. So the same goes for Hillary. If you vote for Hillary, you lose your ability to criticize her because you're one of the reasons she was elected, right? You're one of her supporters. So you could argue, therefore, that in order to be a politically empowered agent who can use your freedom of speech and your freedom of association and your freedom of political action to criticize the system and actually try to change it or propose a better alternative, as soon as you vote for any of the existing candidates, you are not even implicitly but explicitly giving your consent and your support to the system and saying, you know what, these candidates are good enough. I'm willing to choose one of these candidates. Whereas it's like walking into a car shop. You could say, you know what, none of these cars meets my standard. I want a better car. And you could walk out and look for a better car dealership. But if you walk in and say, well, yeah, these cars all suck, but I'll take that one. It sucks the least. At least I got it in yellow. Well, that's your car then, sir, and you're going to have to drive that car. But if I walk in and say, fuck these cars, I want a better car, well, maybe I'll get a better car. But if I settle for one of the cars on offer, I am now accountable for all its problems. And they'll say, yeah, it sucks on gas. And thank you.
All right, round two, Dex. Are you ready, my friend?
Give me like 10 seconds.
Okay.
I am now ready.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, so I want to start off with my opponent's first main contention. Voting in no way, shape, or form models democracy. Now, it absolutely does. And I would like to look at, Trump and the other bills that have been passed, major bills that have been passed. People in America were concerned with the amount of Muslim immigration. This is just rings true. You can look at polls and other things of the sort. And what did Trump do? He banned Muslim immigration. When people were saying, hey, maybe trans people shouldn't be in the military, what did he do? He banned trans people from being in the military. When people were complaining about immigration, Trump basically, he objectified himself that I'm the candidate that will address immigration. Trump has represented the American people, whether you like it or not. Insane. The same thing goes with these new abortion bills that are passed in southern states. People are against abortion, therefore these bills come out. See, it's very important that we know that when we vote for a candidate, that we, as Sir Gell had said, we are not really consenting. We're not really consenting to what they're saying. We're just saying that this is the best option. People can still advocate for a better system. I mean, look at the riots that are in Minneapolis. Look at the protests that happen all over. You can still advocate for a better system. In no way are you just consenting to the system. You're choosing the best option for not only you, but your loved one as well. And this notion that since you vote, you lost your right to complain, I would argue the opposite. If you did not vote, you have no right to complain about how our system is being run. Why? Because you did not have a say into it. Now, as I reinstated before, if you look at polls, it directly correlates to who gets in. Even, in fact, my opponent conceded this point that we do have a say in our political structure as Americans. See, if someone wanted, say, for example, abortion to be legal in Minneapolis, and there was a candidate saying, I will make abortion illegal, would we tell that person, don't vote for them? No. We would tell them to vote for them. Why? Because we know that we do have a say. And political scientists Marco Glentz and Benjamin Page have showed this in studies. Just to quote this again, quote, on bills on which the rich and middle class do disagree significantly, they find that for the middle, there are 87 wins, 43% of all cases, and for the rich, there are 98 wins, 53% of all cases. This small gap in win rates does not significantly differ from 50%. This shows that we, in fact, as Americans, do have a say in our politics. And there wasn't much other points to address, so I'll concede the rest of the time.
Okay, thank you. Galahad, this is round 2 for you. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Here we go.
All right, so thank you, and I'll concede one strong point to my opponent. I see the reverse position that if you voted for a candidate, you then have a legitimate reason, sorry if the siren, to complain, because you're not one of their constituents, so they should have to account to you. So I just want to concede that's a good point. You can see it from both positions, right? A, you're kind of accountable for whatever that candidate does because you voted for them, so if they fuck up, you're kind of responsible for it. I'm sorry about this. This is why it's a bad idea. I'm going to give some of my time just to spare you this year.
We can just pause your time for a sec.
Sorry about that, fire truck. Okay, so resuming. So granted that point, right? Credit where due. Anyways, continuing on though. So again, my point is not that voting is meaningless or that its political value is zero. Maybe more sirens. My point is only that there are reasons why this is so insufficient, right? It's inadequate. There needs to be more political enfranchisement than this. And this is really just a fig leaf of political enfranchisement. Fig leaf, of course, meaning like it's a token, superficial gesture, not meaningful. Well, why? Okay, because in order to even run for political office like Trump did or like Hillary did, the way that the political structure is structured, and again, fortunately you chose the United States as our example, right? Because the United States is an example of what a clusterfuck democracy is. All right, so first of all, in order to even run a candidate, you need many, many millions of dollars, right? And ordinary people don't have that much money. So if you do, you are essentially automatically in bed with lobbyists who have paid you. They're the ones who support you, whether they're nuclear, coal, pharmaceuticals, drugs, military, or some or another political super PAC or something. The point is, ordinary people cannot have this much money that is required for this electioneering and advertising and marketing and all this PSYOP behavior that is called the electoral cycle. It's just a big social engineering PSYOP contest, is very expensive, and no one can afford this. So therefore, you're in bed with all the people who give you the money to do it, and then they expect political favors back later. So it's really, they call it democracy and they call it voting, but it's really a complicated process of oligarchy. Oligarchy meaning, rule by the money, rule by wealth, and it is, because again, democracy would be ruled by the people, and I said voting as we have it is not that. Well, why? Because it's not about the people, it's about the money, right? Because you use the money to buy vast swaths of people. You just put out ads to Middle America or the Bible Belt or some other group of people, and it's just little social engineering time slots. So you literally turn money into social engineering and meme magic and propaganda to brainwash different groups of people until you brainwash enough demographics into supporting your super PAC funded mind control operation to convince people that you're in their best interest when you're obviously in the best interest of the corporations that funded your electioneering. And you have a 4-year cycle to maximize the ratio of how much time you spend on super expensive mind control contests versus how much time you spend in governance and administration. So it's an absurd, repeated cycle of, and then what does this involve? Slandering the opponent. So the point is, right, you need huge amounts of money. So it's not democratic because it requires vast capital, lucre, money. So therefore it's an oligarchy where money buys influence. How does it buy influence? Time slots, TV slots, advertising, lobbyists, people who literally influence Congress. It all costs money. So it's not democratic, it's money based. And that's why your vote doesn't matter that much, because votes can be bought and sold and they come down to influence. And again, the other reason is you only have 2 choices in the United States, which is very bizarre, because even in Canada, we have democracy of this supposed democracy based on voting as well. We actually have more different politician groups. We have the NDP, the Conservatives, the Bloc Québécois, and the Liberals, right? So we have 4 parties, one corresponding to the left, one corresponding to the right. But we also have one that is, there's a few others, and the Greens. So the point is, if you only have 2 puppets, left hand, right hand, then to say that you have any meaningful choice is silly. All you have is red team, blue team. It's a mockery of choice. Black versus white is not a choice. It's a dualistic binary designed to bounce you back and forth like a ping pong ball, where both sides are forced to oppose each other, guaranteeing maximum inefficiency and only the superficial illusion of choice. And I'll yield my time.
All right, TheDex, this is your 3rd and final round. Are you ready?
Please give me just 30 seconds, and I'll be ready.
Okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, here we go. 3rd and final round.
Okay, so first of all, this notion that ordinary people can't run for office. But when we make this statement, what we're looking at, first of all, it's not even true on the federal level, and we're also looking at the state level. However, the elections are not only at the federal state level. In fact, most elections that impact you directly are who is mayor, or who is town hall leaders, who is sheriff. These things impact you way more and way more quickly than federal and state things do. And this notion that ordinary people can't run for office, well, this, first of all, it does not impact the bills that are passed, this amount of money that you need to spend, because as I showed in the data, quote, looking at 105 instances where opinions of the wealthy and the middle class do differ, they find that 87 wins for the rich. And 98 wins for the rich and 87 wins for the middle class. This small gap is not significantly different, 50%. And this social engineering thing, I also find this to be a moot point, because when you look at money spent and the amount of voters that get behind you, it's just not true. Like, for example, Michael Bloomberg in March 2020 spent $176,190,430, while Joe Biden only spent a fraction of that at $32,452,622. And Joe Biden got 1,566 delegates, while Michael Bloomberg got only 2.7% of that. And also, we can see this not being true in South Carolina. For example, Tom Sawyer bought ads for $13.3 million, while Joe Biden only spent about $100,000. But who won that primary? Joe Biden. So this notion that it's just social engineering is not true, and it puts way less faith in the average person, because people aren't simply swayed left and right. They come to their political positions because of their past, because of the interactions they had with people. And this notion that we only have two choices. Well, look at the Democratic primaries. We were complaining because there was about 14 different candidates. And look at the presidential primaries of the Republicans years before, where we had about 11 candidates. We only have two choices because this is what the people decided. There is a Libertarian Party. There are other parties. There is also a Communist Party, but people don't choose to support them. And what does that show? This shows that the voters ultimately, at the end of the day, choose who is getting into office and what bills are being passed. To reiterate one of my later points, if you look at polling data compared to who is in office, it almost exactly correlates, showing that whoever is most popular among the public gets to be in office. And what I would ask all of you on this Discord call to do is imagine a friend is asking, hey, this candidate, he's for open borders, and I think open borders is pretty good. Should I vote for him? What would you tell him? You would tell him to vote for that candidate because that candidate represents him. That candidate is going to do what he wants. That candidate is going to represent him in the way that he wants. And even if it's not that, he's still going to represent him. Now, in this debate, I proved to you that money is not the end-all be-all. In this debate, I proved to you that polling data exactly correlates to who is in office. In this debate, I proved to you that the rich do not control everything that happens in our political system. And I hope that everyone also in this Discord calls also votes. And with that, I yield the rest of my time.
All right, Galahad, this is your final round. Are you ready? Galahad?
So Galahad, if you want me to step up for you, I'm American, so I know about what's going on.
Sorry, buddy. Am I coming through clear or am I chopped?
You're perfect.
Okay. So I'm ready to start.
All right, here we go.
All right. So thank you again, Dex. Very well done. So I'm going to spend the last round arguing why what we have currently in the United States as democracy and voting is not adequate, not sufficient, and therefore is holding us back from what true democracy could or should be. So when we have something, we can look at it's a glass half full or glass half empty situation, right? If I hand you a glass half full of water, are you thanking me that I gave you half a glass of water, or are you saying where the hell is the other half of my glass of water? The argument I'm trying to make is that when it comes to voting and democracy in the United States, you've been given a half a glass of water at best. And I agree with you, half a glass of water is a half glass of water. It's better than nothing. And when you compare it to countries that don't have the vote, et cetera, or people where they don't have enfranchisement, or where the women don't have the vote, or so forth, obviously America has advantages. And you can look at the positives and you can look at the silver lining. But I'm going to spend this last round pointing out how easily you could make a system that was much more meaningfully expressing the freedom that you pretend to have in the United States. So what you get to do is vote for one of two sides of a political dialectic, right? Problem, reaction, solution. The Hegelian dialectic is literally this process. It's a process of social engineering and mind control. It's very old and very powerful. You create a problem, you create a reaction to that problem, you hybridize the two to create a solution, and this is how society is managed. You go carrot, stick, and between the carrot and the stick is the middle ground that will drive society forward. This is called social engineering. It's a Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution. It can also be called thesis, antithesis, synthesis. So thesis is a position, antithesis is the opposite or inversion of that position, and when those two encounter each other, they create a synthesis or a fusion, which is the way forward. So this is how you just go ping pong, social ping pong, left, right, left, right, left, right. That's how you march forward, right? But in a meaningful democracy, it wouldn't be this way. You'd have choices that were not left hand, right hand, red, blue, right? So for example, let's say you have 100 million people in the United States. Or to make it easier to conceptualize, say you had 100 people in the United States. Instead of voting red team or blue team, why don't you have a vote for every single issue? So for every social issue, you could have a vote, and each person through the internet with a unique identifying number tied to their social insurance number or their ID would be able to log a vote in a democratic forum on every single issue of social significance. You could vote on where your tax dollars would go. What is your priority? Is it healthcare? Vote 1 for healthcare. Here's 10 categories. Assign numbers 1 to 10 through these categories. Is defense your number 1 priority, or is it your number 10 priority? All of this could easily be done through a government interface with a non-fakeable ID tied to your social insurance number and your personal ID. You could democratically weigh in through the internet instantaneously in real time on every issue of taxation, your government, what you want to spend on. Do you want nuclear bombs? No? Vote no. Do you want healthcare? Yes? Vote yes. Do you want universal health care? Do you want privatized? Or do you want two-tier? You can decide. All of this could easily be done. You could have a vote and expression on every single issue. Instead, you get to vote between Bush or Kerry, 2 members of the same secret society, skull and bones. You guys were given left hand, right hand, red team, blue team, where red team and blue team were both admittedly members of the same secret society. And for those of you who are too young, like my man Dex here, who's very intelligent and very well-intentioned, but I'm already an old man, right? So when I was a kid, there was a guy named Kerry and a guy named Bush, and they were running against each other for president of the United States. They were both members of the same spooky dooky, pseudo-homosexual Freemasonic cult called the Skull and Bones, where they literally jerk off in a coffin naked together and tell each other their gay secrets on camera, so they have blackmail on each other. And that was the two sides of the political dichotomy, 2 literal members of a secret society. So no, this is not meaningful democracy, right? You're being asked to choose between 2 sheep herders, red team or blue team, who can be in the same secret society or all Freemasons or, whatever. They're all in the same brotherhood. You can literally see it's a fixed game. It's not really democracy. The vote is a fig leaf. And when you vote, you can kind of consent, and you should demand meaningful representation. And to be satisfied with this electioneering charade is just bread and circus. It's a political entertainment. It's not even the shadow of meaningful democracy or freedom. And I'll yield my time.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm going to yield my time. And I just want to say thank you, Paulie, for moderating. Great job, Dex. Very well done. And now it's open discussion. If somebody can make the 2 polls, I don't know how to do that, but ideally do that in the recorded voice channel. Just 2 straw polls. One should be titled Dex Shogun or Dex Galahad, and the other should be titled Voting Meaningful or Not, or is the voting meaningful, yes, no? And then you guys can vote. And now, as the podcast is still recording, anyone wants to talk on this topic, comment on the debate, or participate themselves, go ahead.
Seems to me that it's more of a mixed system, right? That you've got an Overton window represented by the 2 major parties that are the range of acceptable opinions that are being debated and that the public's being given access to. And with the vote, they can have a certain impact on that, but they can't really reach outside of what is the determined bounds of the debate.
See, there's one man that disagrees with you heavily, and his name is Bernie Sanders. I mean, look at the issues like he talked about universal health coverage, right? Look at the topics that Andrew Yang talked about. He talked about a $100,000 dividend. You see that these people push political boundaries. Why? Because the people are supporting them. And I think it's really important to see that the people are the ones who control what gets done. I mean, look at how much Bernie Sanders has pushed Joe Biden himself. He is now down for a public option. And this whole two-party dichotomy, the reason we have that is because the voters chose that. I mean, there is a Libertarian Party, there is a Communist Party, but the voters said, no, we're going with Democrats and Republicans. So I think that's also important to remember.
Yeah, I mean, I don't tend to believe that the majority of the world or the country is organized by people, that image for the server, people sitting around a table stroking a white cat and maliciously planning what's happening. I kind of believe in a more bottom-up, grassroots type conspiracy where people, for their own selfish reasons, their interests align, and then they form groups that have significant control, but not perfect control.
And I would absolutely agree with you. There is a grassroots conspiracy. It's called political advocating, right? Like, look at the grassroots movement that Bernie Sanders had behind him. He had, like, the most individual donations. And as I said before, he had no super PACs whatsoever. So I think what we do is when we look at these conspiracy theories, what we're doing is we're conflating two things, that being the people's will and what we don't like. And I think it's important to distinct between those two things.
Well, I think we need to have
I'm sorry, Open Eye, there's something wrong with your mic, buddy. Can you reconnect to the room, unplug and replug your microphone also might help? It's doing the demon thing.
Yeah, you sound like you're in a blender.
Probably if you unplug and replug your headphones and leave the room and come back, you'll be all right.
Can you hear me now?
So, Snarl, I wanted to say something, right? So you said you don't think it's all a conspiracy. It's not all people sitting around the table. It's more organic, and I agree. That's part of what goes on. It's both. But again, I don't know if you remember, but there was actually a time when the two presidential candidates were members of the same secret society that is known to function through sexual blackmail of the members. So surely you would admit that that is a compromise of the idea of a meaningful democracy when the only two candidates for president who are supposedly on the opposite sides of a political divide are secretly actually part of a secret society.
Yeah.
And you talk about this, and they both said, no, we can't talk about it, which means their priority was more to the secret society's code of secrecy than to democracy or the political process. So that's not only two different puppets on both hands of the same guy, but they're literally both saying, yes, and we're in skull and bones, and no, we won't talk about it, haha, vote for me, vote for me. I mean, it's a mockery of democracy.
Yes, and I certainly agree that election in particular was less meaningful than others, whereas Trump versus Hillary, I think the public actually did disrupt the plans of some of the elites.
Well, the problem is we need to have a third party, and we need to have the Patriot Voters Act, because what's going on is the Democrats took over California by their letting in illegal aliens to vote for them in power, and California is like a Venezuela, and a lot of people know that. To be the truth. I mean, they're saying, oh, we're going to take your guns away. We're going to take your rights away. I mean, that's what they did in Venezuela. But in Venezuela, the dude, he was running the Democratic Party, but he was a communist. Well, we got Joe Biden getting money from fucking China and Hillary getting money from China. And the bad thing is they pointed the finger at Trump and didn't find no evidence. But when we look back what happened to Biden and his son getting money from China, working for China, getting billions and billions of dollars from China, and then this other countries too. I mean, what the hell's going on, y'all? I mean, the evidence is there. I mean, we have communists, Joe Biden and what's his name, that communist dude, oh, I need you on my side. We're all communists. I mean, you know, this world, our United States is being taken over by foreign votes that are taking away our democracy. And the Patriot Voters Act is going to stop any person that's not born in America. You can't run for president, you can't run for office, and you can't vote. That's going to protect us. It's called the Patriot Voters Act. Now, I have told a lot of people in the political realm about this, and I don't know if they're going to grab it and take it on to, you know, the higher level, but our democracy is being attacked.
Okay.
By cartels, communists.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And I think that's a good statement for now. So thank you. And does anyone else have anything they want to say?
Yeah, I would also like to talk about the few points that have been in here. So this notion that both of them were in a secret society, therefore they were placed. No, we still voted for them. Like, we were the people who chose that these people would be president. Sorry if you can hear crying in the background. And it doesn't matter that they're in the same, like, spooky group, right? We still voted for them. Also, you said there was going to be a poll. Is that anywhere here? Did you post it yet?
Well, somebody's got to make it. If nobody can make it, I can even just do a reaction poll. So I thought, you know, someone might make a straw poll, but I'll just make, so everybody who's in the room, it's been a while now since the debate, but if nobody did it yet, I'm going to go to the rec channel. And basically all I'm going to do is do 2 polls here. It's called rec event, right? And if you see it there, do you guys all see it, rec event? It's just a general chat in the roundtable part there. So the poll number 1 is going to be called who did a better job debating, right? Who did a better job debating? And you're going to react either, sorry dudes, this is a little awkward. Somebody should have made a more simple poll, but I'm going to think of a way to do this. Hold on.
I made a poll if you want.
Got something coming?
Oh, did you already make one, Snarl?
And while they're making a poll, I'd also like to respond to some few points. Joe Biden.
Just a quick point, sorry, but make 2 if you can, and thank you, Snarl, so much. But make 1 for that, and then 1 for which position as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, so just to respond to a few points being said, Joe Biden said he was a communist. This is not true. He has actually roasted Bernie Sanders, quote unquote, being a socialist, even though Bernie Sanders, he was a social democrat. This notion that all Democrats are socialists or communists is not true. You can see this in the way that they treat Bernie Sanders, with him only supporting Medicare for all and other policies of the like. And the stuff that you describe in the Patriots Voters Act, that the people who can only be president can only be U.S. citizens, and the only people who can vote is U.S. citizens. This stuff is already law. Like, this is, if you would pass this, it would not be new. So you can go ahead and comment on my points.
I mean, all I really want to say is, you know, what we have is not nothing. It's actually pretty awesome that you get to vote, and women have the vote, and everybody has an equal vote, even if they're in. No, I respect that, and I'm not denying that's in some ways a noble thing. I'm just saying, if you gave me control of it, I would improve it vastly and quickly and easily and efficiently in obvious ways, right? Give it meaningful, like, teeth to your democracy, right? So like I said, you simply give everyone at birth a special unique identifying card or number that's unique to them, like a social insurance number, that's their citizenship number. And then every single political decision, from like how much money you allocate to this or that, or into different priorities in terms of health or defense or environment, everyone should be able to answer all these questions online under a unique ID. If you have real democracy, if you're choosing to go this democratic route, then you could easily make it a meaningful democracy, right? Where you actually get a meaningful choice on everything. So if you don't want to spend 1.5 trillion on the F-35, and you think that 1.5 trillion should be used planting trees, you can say, no, I want my money to go to planting trees. We don't need the F-35. The F-22 is already the most dominant plane that's ever existed. You should be able to specify these different things, right? Whether you want more money for education, for healthcare, right? Why not? It's so easy. You just make an interface. Everyone gets a vote on all these different points. You do a unique vote for every issue. There's no need for parties. You don't need to vote conservative or liberal, Republican or Democrat, blue or red. You just vote on the issues. Why is there parties? Why don't you vote on each issue individually? Everyone says, do you want a public health care free by the government, or do you want private health care, or do you want a two-tier system? You vote for yourself. You don't need to fucking elect a representative for your neighborhood who goes to the place and talks to people for you and gives you a little canned options that you choose from. You want the fucking ice cream pie or the fucking cookie crumble?
See, but this does not go to our contention, right? Our contention was, does voting matter? And I proved it through a few different studies. I mean, you even accepted it that it is a meaningful, use to vote. Like, it doesn't matter whether there can be better options. Again, that's not the debate. The debate is whether voting does matter. And I show that not only do rich people not control what gets into place, but I also showed that we do, in fact, choose who gets into our positions of power.
You're right. So again, the point I want to make is there's a winner or loser in these debates, right? And your points are valid. The whole point of it is more to explore the two sides of a dialectic. So on the one hand, you can look at how the system is good. On the other hand, you can argue why it is bad or could be better. Because on the one hand, the system you have, it entitles you to what you get. On the other hand, technically the system you have is defining the outer limits on what you can't have, right? Because the system as it is defining the limits on how far your freedom goes. So if you're saying this system is good or good enough, then you're actually cutting yourself off from more political power you could have if you argued that you need more or this is not sufficient. So my point is, you can learn and should learn, honestly, to hold two contradictory positions simultaneously and understand how they're both true. And this is one thing I will tell you, my friend. A dialectical position of dualism, black versus white, will never be politically meaningful. But even if you have three, it will be, right? So in esoteric terms, from the one comes the two, from the two comes the three, and from the three comes the many. With three, you can produce infinity. With two, you can produce nothing but ever-increasing conflict. And that's why you're about to watch America dissolve into civil war, because it functions along two simultaneous dualisms, left versus right and black versus white. And it literally is ping-pong balling back and forth. And these divisions between black and white and left and right will just continue widening until the culture splits. And it's planned that way. That's what this is all set up for.
But here's the thing. You can say it's not a meaningful difference, but to the person who can possibly get Medicare because of Medicare for All or expansions on it will disagree with you. The diabetic who can now afford her medication because of Obamacare disagrees with you. The immigrant that can now come over because of liberalizing our immigration system disagrees with you. The woman who couldn't get abortion before or can now disagrees with you. The gay people during 2005 who got the right to marry disagree with you. We see throughout everything that political parties do matter. Look at Trump and what he has done. He's been building the wall, Muslim ban on immigration, transgender ban. These are points that American people wanted done. These are points that the American people decided, hey, I don't agree with this. Let's change it. So we can sit back, right, and we can say that voting does not matter. But to the diabetic, to the immigrant, to the woman who needs abortion, to the gay person who wants to marry the love of his life, these issues mean the world to them. And the people who will give them those rights are different. They're not both Democrats and Republicans. They're either Democrat or Republican. And we do have a third party. I mean, if people wanted the Libertarian Party, which we do have, we even have a Nazi party and a Communist Party, people would vote for them.
Let me tell you something. I'm a researcher. I never knew about the deep state. I've been doing research for like 12 years. In the last year, this dude called David Wilcox talked about this deep state thing that was evil. So I started doing investigations because I'm a researcher. And I found out after they did all these things about Trump that Biden is getting money from China. And Hillary and all these people are getting money from China and Russia. And I mean, they were pointing the finger like, you're getting money from China and Russia, but actually we got the proof that they've been getting money. I mean, $14 billion or $1 million, 0.5 or whatever, and you don't have to report the name. And I'm talking about big freaking money, $14 million. And if it's 15 million, you got to report it. Okay? So they found out the proof, but yet in subpoenas, they could find out where that money came from. And you know where Biden been getting that money from? China. Okay? His son was working for China, getting billions of dollars per year, and this is real. This is real stuff. It's proof. And he went to this other communist thing, whatever, and he was with this other, whatever, I don't know what country it is, and he was getting money from them too, and didn't have no experience. His son. How can he work two jobs like that, get billions of dollars, and don't even have? I mean, the communists. I'm telling you, dude, you don't have no idea how evil these people are. Biden is a fucking child molester. This son of a bitch got eyes on little fucking kids' titties and shit, grabbing on them.
Keep it PC and keep it in general terms, please.
Biden is a fucking prick. He's a fucking Catholic fucking demonic demon. I see it.
I hear you. You're right, and he has a number of inappropriate behaviors that many people have noticed and filmed. You're right. I don't know if he's Catholic or not. He definitely is not in line with politically correct safe space standards. He's also senile as fuck and incoherently rambles and rambles on. And the fact that we are in the habit of electing senile people with obvious like late stage dementia rather than like sharp people in the prime of their mental health is very strange. And one of these problems with democracy, like we're electing invalids at this point. We got Trump, Hillary, and fucking Biden. We need to start hiring people in the prime of their mental and physical health, not old geriatric people, obviously.
I agree to a large extent. I think Trump still has his mind, but it's very disturbing that Biden is considered a legitimate politician given his limitation.
No, but the thing
why
is,
are we not hiring presidents in the prime of their mental health instead of in their late geriatric declining years?
Yeah, we certainly should be doing that.
That's a great question to ask the average voter, because the average voter thought Biden was better than not only Bernie but also Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar. You know, we like all of the Democratic candidates. The voters chose that. I mean, you can ask this question like, why don't we choose better people? You should ask the voters that, because as I just proved, the voters do choose who is in office. So, great question to ask them, to be honest.
But you do realize that they choose, when you say choose who's in office, you do acknowledge they're choosing from a prearranged and very small number of choices that they're given. And those are not a definitive range of choices they could have, right? They could be choosing entirely different people, and they're really not given a meaningful choice. They're given puppets to choose from, right? And in many cases, none of those are good choices. And so you say this is who we chose, but you really think that people would have chose Hillary and Donald Trump out of everybody if they could have chose anyone they want? We could have a different system where you can nominate people on different merits without these standards of entry. You could be electing on totally different grounds, and democracy has a lot of potential. Okay, I don't believe in democracy, like under any circumstances. So if I had my choice, I wouldn't be pursuing the democratic way at all. I think it's misled entirely. But if you did go the way of democracy, it has incredible potential, and you could take it in incredible directions. But the way that they're passing you as it now is an insult to the idea of democracy. I don't support democracy, but if I did, I could do it like you could do it way better than this. So I think this form of democracy is an insult to democracy, first of all, and also democracy is a stupid idea anyway.
Okay,
well, it's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment because Joe Biden is you could look at the fucking child abuse I mean, the dude's got hands on people. I mean, the dude's a fucking psycho, man. How in the hell the Democratic Party or the CNN is gonna fucking choose this dude to be their candidate, and he's a fucking psycho?
Good point, bro. And I agree. I'm just gonna ask you to let someone else take a turn now. No, I hear you, though. No, you're right, 100% right, and I appreciate it. I'm just gonna ask someone else to take a turn, and we'll get back to you very soon. Open, I thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So the thing is, prearranged. Like, we chose through the Democratic and Republican primaries who would be in office. Like, we can use all this loaded language, but at the end of the day, who chooses to be in office is the people. And the thing is, like, we can say, like, oh, you need a lot of money, but Bernie Sanders himself demonstrated through his rejection of super PACs that people can elections. This is not an alien idea. And that people do choose who is in office. And this ideal that it's just a dialectic, it is not just a dialectic, like I said, to the diabetic or to the immigrant or to the girl who needs an abortion. These are not simple issues. They're the world to these people. I mean, look at the people who have been supporting Bernie Sanders. They were the poor ones who needed Medicare. And they advocated for themselves. They said, we need this done. The passage of this is not nothing to them. It's their life.
Right. That's just another form of control. Like, why do women need abortion in the first place if not a culture that's telling them it's okay to have unprotected sex? Why would people need diabetic medication in the first place if they weren't brainwashed to eat copious amounts of sugar we were never meant to process? And why should we care about immigrants at all? But they shouldn't even be considered in the system.
I would say that why people need abortions in the first place. Well, we do, like, for example, my own school was actually, I took health class and it would say, oh, don't do unprotected sex, but underprotected sex. But we see through study and study that no matter how you teach the curriculum, no matter how, in which way you try to form the culture, teenagers are horny as fuck. I mean, that's just a fact of life, and they're gonna have sex whether you like it or not. See, what we do is what policy leaders need to do is they need to address these things, right? They need to address them, right? Culture it's kind of a demon on its own, right? I wouldn't like the government like saying you need to follow this culture and that culture. That's a job on the American people. But what the government does is it represents the people. It says, hey, we can do regulations or we can implement bills that help the diabetic, help, the immigrant, and help whoever they need to help. That's the job of a government.
And I,
So, okay, policy doesn't dictate culture; art does. Firstly, if the idea is to stem behavior, you're never going to eliminate it, right? So, certain art will increase the proclivity of women having high risk sex, right? And a better culture will also fix most of the illnesses. Most modern illnesses are easily fixed with better choices, right? And you want to continue the system of them being sick by legitimizing it, as if they're helpless to it, and we need to pass laws to save them. Nope. Everything is art and culture. You fix everything with art and culture. Culture is what actually impacts people's behaviors, because culture is nature, right? People, you break laws every day you're not even aware of. Like, it's not the best way to change people's behaviors at all.
yeah, and I've been listening to this conversation on and off. I've been doing some YouTube stuff, getting that situated. But it's like when it comes to democracy and voting, I do see democracy as the best of the terrible solutions that we have, especially for the U.S. And I think it's like when conversations arise about Joe Biden. I think Joe Biden is overall a pretty kind of boring, but he's overall a fair politician. And I think especially when you see what he's doing this weekend, going to a protest site and listening to people, I have no qualms about him potentially leaving the United States, and I think he could be a guiding hand for the nation.
See, we can talk about these issues like all day. We can talk about like why do people need abortion, like why do we need immigrants coming in? But ultimately, who decides what we do is the people. It has always been the people. Like polling shows this, like election campaigning shows this, like studies show this, that the people do choose at the end of the day who is in office. And I think we're conflating like, these things are bad. These bad things are happening.
I disagree.
Therefore, the government's not controlled by the people. No. It's just that the people don't know how to fix these solutions, right?
I disagree.
Okay, on what basis?
Huh? Sorry, I'm
With what do you
I'm
disagree
playing.
on, and on what basis?
I'm playing Red Dead Redemption 2. Sorry.
Okay.
All of it.
You're okay. But I mean, studies show, polling compared to election data shows this.
I disagree with all of it.
Financing shows this.
Yeah, I agree as well.
We got two trolls in the room, Dewey.
I'd like to see the studies. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'll post them right now in chat.
All right.
But what I'm gonna ask everyone in this Discord call to do right now is to go over to straw poll and vote. We only have 5 votes in one and 6 in the other. Everyone in this call right now, go to record event and you will see 2 polls. And click on both of those polls and vote, please, because we need to have a metric to see how good we did. Okay, so thank you, all of you.
Studies, please. I just see cats.
Yeah, I'm linking them right now.
Okay.
I like cats. And studies.
Cats. I hate cats.
I hate cats too.
They're the scum of the earth.
They're valueless.
I like cats.
Okay.
No, you don't. On what basis?
Galahad, I appreciate your cat.
Oh, he's the greatest. Isn't he a sweetie? He's sitting on my lap right now. Say hi, Guffy. Yeah, he doesn't want to. He's happy now. We're on the patio.
Can he sit on my lap?
We could probably dismiss Craig Bot.
I'm just waiting for the studies right now.
They're in general chat. If you don't see them, you probably should reload them. But I have a
see.
question. Who in here voted so far?
Yeah, I voted. I'm voting for Trump.
That's terrible.
Why?
Because, first of
Yeah,
all,
I'm
I
voting
like
Trump
Muslim.
too.
I like trans people in the military. I like abortion. I like all these things. I don't
Why?
like conservative.
Why do you like that?
Supreme Court
Are we
Why do you
still
like that?
recording?
That's not hot at all. What do you mean? Why
Yeah,
do
we're
you like
still
that?
recording. We're gonna let everyone. This is your last chance to vote. Go to rec event, vote, and then
How many
we'll
people
announce
are
the vote.
watching?
And we will then conclude the event if no one else has anything else to say. And
I
I'd
just
like
wanna-
to do a further debate, right? So here's the thing. I know this is very noisy, so I'm going to close up. I don't believe in the ideas of democracy, equality, freedom of speech. I do believe in them, but I think that they've all been led astray. So I want to do a series of debates on this to explain why these things are essentially all negative now.
Yeah, I
Oh,
agree.
Sure thing.
I
I'll
hate-
be totally down for that. And I just want to point something out. See, Sir Galahad can say all he wants about voting doesn't matter, but what is he doing right now? Telling you to vote in straw poll. Pretty sure this proves my point.
All right,
Yo, he
so
got you, man.
let's check the results of the vote, and then we'll conclude this event. But that was a lot of fun, and anyone wants to debate, challenge me, challenge each other.
Yeah, I'll
and,
challenge you.
I'll challenge you.
Okay, great. You challenge me, Toaded Stick?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
what would you like to debate?
Shoot him. We're good at debating. The Earth is flat. Change my mind.
You believe the Earth is flat, or you believe it's
Yeah.
not flat?
Yeah.
I believe it is.
Shoot him. I'm not too good at it, but shoot him has her whole argument, and he can tell you.
Okay, but wait, are you sincere though? You're a sincere flat earther.
100% sincere. A lot of people think I'm trolling. Swear to God.
No, I debate. I've actually done formal debates on flat Earth before, so I will gladly debate for the sphere Earth position against you. So all you have to do is DM me a time, a day and time, the
11,
specific
12
phrasing
PM,
of the topic, and an
5:31,
image you want me to use, and we'll do it.
Yeah. Can you do it right now?
Well, no, because we have to advance it, and I just finished the debate, and we'll plan it. We'll announce it. We'll do it like tomorrow. I have the next 2 days off, so you can do it anytime in the next 2 days, Monday or Tuesday, anytime.
All right.
All right.
And again, I'm ready to do it. I don't prepare. And yeah, I will argue for Sphere against Flat Earth with you. Just let me know when, and choose the art you want for the announcement.
All right.
I have some art. Shoot 'em. Can you send me the?
I have some art.
The not real one.
The what?
So, do we have the results of the polls?
Yeah, I voted no.
Thanks, man.
I guess I'll check them out now.
Let me vote. Wait, what is it? Let me
You
vote.
guys,
I can't wait to exercise my First Amendment and vote for Donald Trump.
So as far as who argued best, it is a tie, 4-4 votes, 50%.
Okay, I'm gonna Gallahan.
Yeah, I vote Gallahan too. So just do +1 because my mom has like blocks on the computer, so I can't access straw poll.
Okay,
She likes
well
corn
then
too. I'm like, what's wrong with that?
we
Yeah,
got
what's wrong with
+2 to that.
What's with that?
Now,
But wait, Marilyn, what was the score on the vote? What was the tie?
it was a tie for who believed who won the vote, but then we had 2 add-on votes at the end, so technically you won that round.
But what was the score?
4 and 4.
All right, we'll call it a tie then, for sure. Awesome.
It says differently for me. It says 5 votes and 4 votes.
Yeah,
Oh,
I just voted.
There we have it. And then for the last one, let me just refresh before I say anything. Is voting significant? Let's say yes, we influence society is 5 votes for 56%, and no, it's largely theater for 44. So yes, voting is significant. So there we have
Here's
it.
the art I want. Can you make it so I can put pictures in?
I believe that concludes our argument, our debate for the day. Does anyone have any final words before we close out the recording?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Thank you very much, Dex. Very well done. Very well argued. The debates, the scores were pretty much 50-50, so basically a tie. I thought you did a great job. It was a lot of fun. We should debate a lot of stuff. Me and Mr. Dawson are going to have a debate soon about whether the U.S. spends too much on their military budget. I would like to debate, Aziz, if you'd like to do a debate. Anybody and everybody,
I'll
Merlin.
debate you with ease.
And we'll do a Flat Earth one toted if you want to do one tomorrow or the next day.
Cool.
Just send me the date and
Yeah.
the time and the art.
I did my own research and I figured it out.
Okay, so just to get a final
Sir
word
Galahad?
in, I would love to thank Sir Galahad for doing this debate. I think it was a lot of fun, a lot of great points brought up, because again, this is a very important issue. I'm totally looking forward to the series of debates we're doing, and I'm totally extending an invitation for anyone to challenge me on a topic. I'm also down to debate you.
It's
on
not
the
that
server.
important.
And I would
I'll
also
debate
like
you.
to say, my
Yeah.
final conclusion is I think it's important that people vote, and I would say everyone in this Discord call, everyone hearing this, you should absolutely vote for who you think would best represent you.
Thank you very much. I agree, actually. I mean, if you have only limited power, I'm not saying don't use the limited power you have. So use what you have and also work for more outside the system. That would be my advice. But within the law, of course. So that being said, obey the law, love your governments. But let's jump down to roundtable 1, and we'll continue, and we'll have some special events coming over the next 2 days. But thank you all for coming out and participating. We'll go back to the freestyle rooms now. We're the Roundtable Discord server. Find us by Googling Roundtable Discord. We're on all social media. You can also find us on politics or conspiracy theories through Discord. And I will see you guys upstairs for the freestyle discussion in Roundtable. Looks like we will be using room number 1.